Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to Vanessa for your 7 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je remercie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I also thank the witnesses who've come to speak to us today. And I thank you for the work that you're doing. We've found that there have been increases in the grants and contributions for Status of Women Canada. Generally speaking, does that cover the increase of operating costs for the department? Or could that generate more projects that could be funded through Status of Women? Is it tied to the increase in costs, or will you be able to fund further projects with these extra funds?
Support money that was provided through budget 2018 is essentially a doubling of the amount of grants and contributions dollars that are available to organizations. We have approximately $20 million now. The budget announced $100 million over 5 years to enable us to provide that support to organizations. There is a small operating cost that the department, the agency takes to allow us to continue the operations, but the grand majority of that money would go to the organization. So essentially, it would allow us to potentially double the number of organizations that would be able to access funding.
De projet financier. Merci.
Thank you. Also, given the increase in operating expenses, we know that through this announcement, the Status of Women Canada becomes a full department. Could you explain to us how this will affect Status of Women Canada's ability to fulfill its mission? And could you talk to us about a more diversified portfolio, for example?
For Status of Women, I've not been with the organization very long, but I would have to say that the ability for us to become a full department it provides us with the stability and the support that will be required to enable us to actually operate as a full department, staff available there to support those organizations that require support, as well as having a full minister, having a full deputy minister, and playing that interlocutor role with other departments is quite critical. And I think that really puts us in a good position to continue the work of Status of Women, working on the ground with organizations that need our support. In terms of additional, are you okay? Okay, you're like you want. So at this point, we feel very strongly about this being a very positive opportunity for Status of Women.
C'est ça, nous voyons ici une augmentation de nombre de...
Here we're seeing an increase in the number of positions from 99 to 214 from 2016 to 2020. So you'll have more employees, almost double. That's right. For the 2018 budget allocations, we can see $1.9 million for a national consultation on gender equality amongst young Canadians. So can you share anything with the committee on how this will unfold? And to talk us about the objectives for that conversation, or the goals, and how you're going to manage this as a national project.
A couple of points in your question. You are correct in terms of the additional resources for Status of Women. It will increase the capacity of the organization to enable us to, as I said earlier, to work with organizations and to provide the support that's required to other departments. Having more resources going to organizations also requires resources with Status of Women to support them on the ground. We would like to play a role of enabling and working with organizations to allow them to connect with other partners, to connect with other funding sources. For us to be able to do that, it requires additional resources. So we're really happy about that. The consultation processes that you mentioned, we talked about men and boys earlier, and we talked about GBA+. We're also talking about the Youth Roundtable as well. It's another engagement process that will enable us to bring young people together That work is underway to finalize details of what that would actually look like, but the goal is to bring young people from across the country together to understand some of the issues that they've been dealing with, to allow them to discuss amongst themselves how that would, how the work that we do could help advance the work that they see as important for status of women and for gender equality. But as I said, the details of that exact project and that roundtable are just in the works in terms of being finalized and developed.
Donc, cela veut...
So that would also include the education systems in all of the provinces and territories. It could be a national Canadian approach, including the provinces, but because the issue of education, if we're going to talk about the education of young boys, that would be through the schools. So that would be under provincial jurisdiction. There'll certainly be negotiations and discussions with the provinces and territories. No?
There's a forum of ministers for status of women that she met with in October of last year, that she'll be meeting with as well October of this coming year. So we're working closely in partnership with the provinces and territories on issues that impact both of us. There is also, not at the political level, but at the bureaucratic level, working groups that enable us to actually advance some of those working projects, including things like funding for organizations. It's an issue that the provinces face as well. And as you mentioned, some of the things that we are talking about do impact younger folks that are in the school systems. But really, it is working to it's a requirement to work together with the provinces and territories, because there is some really keen interest on both parties to actually partner on a lot of these pieces of work.
Eva, you have about 10 seconds.
No?
No, 10 seconds.
Merci beaucoup pour le travail que vous faites.
Thank you very much for the work you do.